Welcome back. Right, now last week, as you know, we had a look at The Hobbit on the ZX Spectrum, but this time I'd like to leap forward to the 6th generation of consoles. Now these games were published by EA. Yes, yeah, I know, we've all heard that joke before, it's quite old, okay? Now I know what you're all thinking, oh, licensed games are horrible, they give you, like, hepatitis and shit. And that's not true, well... Okay, well, most of the time it's true, but sometimes it's not true.
But there do exist good licensed games, and if you look in the right places, some great games. Obviously the cliche is to list GoldenEye, but I don't really have anything to say about it because it's already been used as an example countless times. No, I'm going to use something else. Iron Man 2. It's a fantastic achievement of pure beauty. No, I can't keep this up. The real example is The Warriors on PS2. This is always overlooked on top 10 lists for licensed games, which honestly always baffles me. Maybe we'll look at it another time in another video. Hell, even recently we got Alien Isolation and Middle-earth: The Shadow of Mordor. Both absolutely fantastic games that have proven you can make great licensed games. Another good example, or examples, are the Lord of the Rings movie licensed games published by EA. When they got the license, they didn't just make a couple of tie-ins to the fantastic movie trilogy. No. There are action games, real-time strategy games, RPGs, and tactical-based games.
Now, while we may look at some of the other games that EA produced for the movie trilogy, I'd like to take a look at these games this time. I'm of course talking about The Two Towers and Return of the King.
Developed to tie in directly with the films, The Two Towers and The Return of the King were published by EA. There exists no Fellowship of the Ring game published by EA, since The Two Towers contains the first two films. This allowed Sierra to release their own licensed game.
However, the Fellowship of the Ring actually stayed truer to the source material, although it doesn't relate to the movies at all or has nothing to do with EA. But you have to admit that the release date is quite convenient.
Both games by EA control practically identical, playing in a third-person hack-and-slash beat-em-up style with RPG elements thrown in. As you defeat enemies, you gain both experience points and begin racking up combos. The more kills you get without taking a hit, the better combo points you acquire. These in turn multiply the amount of experience earned. This also depends on how flashy the attack is. At the end of each stage, all of your accumulated experience is added to your existing pool. You are then able to purchase upgrades such as increased armour or health, stronger attacks, combos, and new finishing moves. It's a decent little system that gives the player a great sense of progression. It also might be a surprise to some, but the combos unlocked are actually useful, particularly the finishing moves. These can finish off different enemy types with one flourish. The controls are as follows. Now we're looking at the PS2 version here. X. This is your quick attack. This is best against smaller and shieldless enemies. Triangle. This performs your strong attack, dealing damage to larger enemies, such as trolls, and helping you to destroy shields being used by some enemies. This allows you to open up with some quick attacks. Circle. This... oh screw it, no one uses kick anyway. Square. This is your parry button, helping you to deflect missile weapons and blows, also assisting with combos. L1. Holding down this button switches to your long-range attack, whether it's a bow, throwing axes or knives, or perhaps even Gandalf's staff. Holding down the attack button powers up the projectile. R2. This is your finishing maneuver. When an enemy is down on the ground, just hit this button, it will finish him right off. Both games control similar and both have the same experience system. However, there are some differences. Firstly, in The Two Towers you are only able to play as Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli. However, when you finish the game you unlock Isildur as a playable character. You play as him during the tutorial level as well, but he's pretty much just a reskinned Aragorn. Now in The Return of the King there are far more characters. We have Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Gandalf and Samwise Gamgee, along with unlockables such as Faramir, Merry, Pippin, Frodo and King Aragorn. Do not play as Gimli. Gimli sucks.
Now there is, however, one major advantage that the Return of the King has over the Two Towers, and that's co-op mode. Despite the party of 3 scenario in the Two Towers, there's not actually any co-op mode in the first game they produced. While the potential was there, I guess maybe they couldn't do it due to timing, and you know, it had to coincide with the movie, so maybe they were under a bit of a tight schedule. But that's okay, because what we don't want is really poorly implemented and game-breaking co-op. I guess because they did it that way, it gave them more time to work and refine it for the Return of the King.
Now, we've spoken about the differences between the two games, but there's something that both games share in common, and that's the fantastic recreations of the major set pieces from the films, from Helm's Deep, the battle at Minas Tirith, the skirmish at Osgiliath, and the fight at the Crack of Doom. They're all really, really well done, and the music is used fantastically as well, and it really ramps up all the excitement and the tension. And it helps. These missions are actually genuinely exciting and very fun to play.
Now there is one major thing that lets these games down, and it's something that lets a lot of licensed games down. It's the length itself, because if it's related to a film or a TV show, usually there's not really a lot to go with.
Two Towers clocks in at around 5 to 6 hours if you do absolutely everything and play as every single character. Return may be more likely 6 to 8 if you do everything there as well. But honestly, every character controls the same, so there's not really much of a point of doing it. Sure, one may be stronger at close range and one better at long range attacks, complete with their own combo list, but each character seemingly does have the same health, the same basic attacks, and every character has a projectile attack, so really there's nothing different between each character. It's, like I said, purely visual. Now that I think of it, I recall using my projectiles less in Return of the King than I ever did in the Two Towers. Trust me, I used my bow and axes like mad in the Two Towers. Return just seemed far too messy and close for all of that, and honestly felt myself mashing the X button like mad, something I rarely did during the Two Towers. It's kind of strange.
Now, are these great games? No. Are they good games? Oh, definitely. I mean, I had a lot of fun with them back in the day, and I had fun playing them through again when I was writing this, so if you're a fan of the series, preferably the movies obviously, if you're a fan of the movies, or just the world in general, or you like a good action game like this, well, give them a try. I mean, there's a lot worse stuff out there. I mean, remember Thor, right? Or Green Lantern, or Captain America, or Iron Man 1, and you get the point.
Hell, I'd say that a couple of the other Lord of the Rings games EA released are worth playing. I still occasionally go back to Battle for Middle-earth, so if you haven't played these before and need something to keep your Middle-earth fever at bay, give them a go. They're well worth the effort and definitely have enough content to keep you happy. But if I had to pick one over the other, I think I'd go for the Two Towers. While Return of the King may have a longer game length, more characters and the addition of co-op, I just felt that the Two Towers is a more polished game, not only controlling slightly better, but for some reason I just prefer the look of the Two Towers game. While it doesn't look as realistic, the graphics are much more pleasing on the eye to me, with decent models that do the job without trying to look ultra realistic, whereas Return tries to imitate the look maybe a bit too much, leading to a game that at times looks pretty damn ugly with some messy looking textures and muddy graphics. And while it does give the game a gritty, realistic look, it's a tad jarring having played the previous title. Additionally, both games have some well done transitions between in-game models and footage from the films. Both games are really good fun, and if you're either a fan of the films or the genre, you should really pick them both up. It's been at least 7 to 8 years since I played both, and I still had a great time playing them. Well, we're halfway through Middle-earth month, but next week I'm going to do something slightly different due to time constraints. Instead of a video review, I'm going to upload a written review to my blog, or website, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to be reviewing The War in the North on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 and PC. Will this be the great game the franchise deserves? Well, here's hoping. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.